Good evening, everyone. I would like to now call the September 25th, 2024 regular City Council meeting to order. Tonight, I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and Council members Albrecht, Bazagian, and Shapiro, as well as our city staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk, and the speaker cards are located in the back. Tonight I am joined by Girl Scout Troop 1586, who is here to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
May I please have your attention for our flag ceremony? Please stand for the presentation of the colors. Color Guard, attention. Color Guard, advance. Color Guard, halt. Color Guard, present the colors.
Come back.
Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Color Guard, post the colors. Color Guard, salute the colors. Color Guard, dismissed.
We could just have you back up a little and we'll take a picture, and if the council could come in close, and the city manager and city attorney. Parents, come on up. Girls, look this way. Everybody smile. Remy, smile. Good job. Everyone get them? We're good? Okay. Good job.
May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Does our city attorney have a report on closed session?
Yes, Madam Mayor. The council met in closed session to consider three items, and we'll take up two further regarding items 1, 2, and 3, potential litigation against the city related to facts and circumstances believed not known yet to potential plaintiff or plaintiffs, conference legal counsel regarding initiation of litigation, and public employee performance evaluation for the city attorney. For those three items, the council provided direction to staff and council and took no reportable action. The council will take up items 4 and 5, public employment, title, city attorney, and conference of labor negotiators regarding city attorney after the conclusion of open session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Matt. And now I'd like to call on Deputy DiMatteo, who will make the presentation on the Sheriff's Crime Report for July and August 2024.
All right, good evening. I do have the crime report for the months of July and August. I have combined the crime report for the interest of time. However, I want to start off with letting you know that while I was researching the crime report, like I do before every meeting, I noticed 2 out of the 4 residential burglaries listed in July were actually burglaries that occurred to businesses. So there will only be 2 residential burglaries for July, not 4. And I have already submitted a request to get that fixed by our crime analyst. And once it's done, I will follow up with the city manager. Okay. Let's get started from the top. This is a combined report. We did have one rape. The report indicates two adults were on a date driving through Calabasas, and when they pulled over in an unknown area, the victim alleges the suspect then retrieved a firearm from the glove box and forced sex upon her at gunpoint. This incident is being investigated by the Sheriff's Special Victims Bureau. We did have one strong arm robbery. This was kind of more of a domestic incident. However, two individuals in a dating relationship got into an argument. The suspect stole the victim's cell phone and wallet by force and fled the scene. So the suspect is known but is not located. In addition, we had one assault and we had two residential burglaries. Both occurred in July and both residences were unlocked. We had 6 burglaries to businesses. 2 of the locations were pharmacies. 2 were schools. One was a grocery store and one was an office building. Did have 5 vehicle burglaries and 12 grand thefts. Of the items stolen, copper wire, furniture, packages, retail theft, and we're seeing a trend of wallets and purses being stolen when you're shopping at grocery stores or eating dinner at restaurants. So be aware of your surroundings. There are thieves out there that are trying to steal from you. Did have 6 petty thefts and 5 stolen cars. That's it for the combined crime report, July and August. Are there any questions, comments, or concerns?
Does anyone have any comments?
Yeah, just a quick one. The copper theft, I understand there was an arrest made of a recycling yard. Is that believed to be a significant portion of this, or is that just one of many?
One of many. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say thank you as always.
Thank you. Is this new? Oh, you can't?
No,
Sounds
he's good.
loud. I'm like, yeah. I know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public wishing to speak on this item? I don't see any. We will move on to council announcements, and I will start with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut.
Sure, I have 2 announcements tonight. The first of all is that we have the grand opening of Brandon's Village, one of our neighborhood parks, which is not only accessible, it's all-inclusive. So children of special needs, children that have any various impediments that might stop them from playing in some of our other parks, even as accessible as they might be, we're going to find that this new playground at Brandon's Village brings out the entire community with no exception. So very proud of that. That's going to be opening Sunday, October 6th at 10 a.m. from 10 to 1. There'll be a ribbon cutting, but more importantly, there'll be a chance for the kids to play. So please bring your children, come on out and join us. And I also wanted to announce that there is a Calabasas, the Great, what are we calling this here? The Great Pumpkin Bake-Off. And I strongly suggest that every person that wants to enter do so. But I would also challenge other neighborhoods to get together. Put your neighborhood together and put an entry together for this. You can come in second place because Saratoga Hills is going to be coming in first. You can find more details on our website. Thanks.
James?
Nothing, thank you.
Ed?
Yes, thank you. Announcements. Greater Mulwood, Mulholland Heights, and the Calabasas Park Homeowner Association held a candidate forum for the Las Virgenes Unified School District School Board, and it was videoed. It was taking place at AC Stell. It was really enjoyable hearing from the candidates. The video will be featured on the website for Greater Mulwood, and I believe CPHA and Mulholland Heights, if you'd like to review it, so you have a better take on what your candidate, who you would vote for a candidate. The Kevin Cordascio Foundation and the City of Calabasas have combined for a classic 5K run called the Walk of the Heroes for Childhood Cancer. and that's going to take place this Sunday. Registration is on the city homepage. Hopefully, a lot of people will be attending. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed. David?
Thank you very much, and I just want to mention a number of events. First, thank staff for a great job done at the annual walk-in flu clinic. And you get not just one, but two for this year. They had the flu shot and the COVID vaccine, and thanks to the Calabasas Courtyard Pharmacy, who also administered those shots. Tomorrow night, there is a webinar for anyone who is interested. We all should be. A wildland fire preparedness webinar put on by the city, along with our talking about the fire season outlook by the LA County Fire Department, Firewise Communities, and our Calabasas CERT team. It is at 6 p.m. and you can register online. It's a Zoom event, not in person, but that should be very informative. We also had this past week our 11th annual Calabasas Film Festival, which was a big success. Some wonderful movies, ending with the student film festivals. Viewpoint was prominent in that, among other schools. And one of the best movies and biggest movies that's coming out in the theaters this week was showcased or had its opening here Saturday Night, which was based upon the beginnings of Saturday Night Live. And Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and I got to give a certificate to the cinematographer who was a Viewpoint graduate back a lot of years ago and started the film program at Viewpoint. So that was neat. Also, ongoing right now, the Mayor's Youth Council is having a voter registration drive for Calabasas versus Viewpoint. It's for their annual awards cup, and it's anyone who can register, is 16 plus can register to vote. And that ends October 3rd. So if you know someone, make sure you get registered to vote. And the Mayor's Youth Council is also hosting on October 14th a voter information night. And there will be Councilmember Bazagian and I will be going over the ballot, and most importantly, 4 of the students in the Mayor's Youth Council will have a presidential debate, which should be very, very interesting. So that's at 6 o'clock in Founders Hall on the 14th. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It looks like everyone covered it, so I'm good. Thank you. Now we are going to move on to oral communication public comment. Are there members of the public wishing to speak on non-agenda items? I have one card from Joanna Faye Pollock. If you'd like to come to the microphone, and please state your name and the city you live in.
My name is Joanna Faye Polak. I live in Calabasas. Good evening, City Council members. My name is Joanna Polak, and I'm here as a crossing guard for all city management at Bay Laurel Elementary School. For the past 3 years, I have been not only guarding the 2 crosswalks, but also the driveway into the school. Recently, it was brought to my attention that I only need to guard the 2 crosswalks and not the dangerous driveway that cars turn in every morning from 7:45 until 8:30 at rapid speeds. As children and their parents are dashing up the sidewalk, crossing the driveway, I am very concerned that a tragedy will occur. I would like for the City Council to talk to ACMS, All City Management Services, my company, about their contract and see if the driveway can be added as a crossing guard point. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to consent items. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull any items from the consent calendar? Okay. Let's do item number 6, and then we can vote. Item number 6 is adoption of resolution number 2024-1924, approving a salary schedule for full-time permanent employees and rescinding resolution number 2024-1908, and adoption of resolution number 2024-1925, approving a salary schedule for hourly employees and rescinding resolution number 2023-1866. Do you have any specific questions, Ed? Oh, make me read all that? Okay. Number 8, authorize and award a contract to the Sauce Creative Services Group for the design, printing, and mailing of the tri-annual recreation brochure for 2 years in the amount of $172,575.92.
I'm making a scene here.
Oh,
That's okay, I had a question on 8.
Items on here I was going to pull, but I decided not to, so I apologize. It's number 4. That's the one I want.
Just read them all.
And
Okay.
and
I
I,
go through every
Madam-
single one of them, but it's number 4.
okay.
and I would like to make a comment on number 8 or ask a question.
Okay, we're going to go out of order since Erica's here. We're going to do number 8 first,
Yay.
and then number 4. Okay.
Want me to go ahead?
Yeah, oh, please, ask your
Okay.
questions.
Okay, thanks very much. My questions only were, was there consideration given to any printing companies, a preferential in Calabasas to print this brochure? And then I'll ask my usual question about the naming of the brochure.
The RFP was posted to our Constant Contact sent out. We sent it out to groups that we have worked with before, so there was no preferential. We did not target specifically Calabasas printers. It was just whoever submitted a response.
Well, I guess my follow-up question, did Calabasas any printers in Calabasas submit applications for this? Okay, I didn't think so. And then secondly is the naming. I know we've talked about it before, and maybe I'm the only one at this point. Is there any indication that there may be a change as opposed to it being the premier to what I guess it was previously, which is the Calabasas? Or am I the only one who has gotten comments on that and
No,
presented them?
I commented on it up here too.
Yeah,
think.
I recall that.
Is that,
It was a Calabasas recreation brochure.
Correct.
should we talk about that under a separate item, or can we talk about that here? Because this is about the contract for printing.
Well, that's part of the contract.
Yeah,
the
it's okay
name.
to discuss the name because it's the
Okay, I just want to make sure.
reasonable question to ask, but yeah, you're
Okay.
okay to discuss the name as part of this item.
Okay.
So to answer the question, no, the consideration to change the name was not considered. We can now, if that's something that the council wants us to do. It's been almost about 3 years that we've been going by the Premier, so it's known by that name now. A lot of folks have asked, do you have copies of the Premier? It's pretty industry standard to have named brochures, but we are definitely open to changing that. I know we heard a little bit about it when it first was distributed, but I haven't heard anything recently.
Does anyone else? Do you have more comments?
Only question, and this is the only recreation brochure that you're aware of, at least in Southern California, named the premier at this point, I assume.
That's named the Premier, correct. There are other agencies that do name their brochures, though, but not Premier.
Peter?
I would just add that the name, not a fan of it either, but I understand we have a brand and we need to keep that. I would say that the biggest concern that I have heard from people in the public is they don't know what it is when they see it. So I would make the Calabasas recreation, identification a little larger.
Sure.
And maybe as you work out the design with the new printer, that's something that they could consider and give you a few ideas on.
Absolutely.
Great. Any other questions on item number 8? Okay. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
Now, item number 4, confirming. Let me read it just so the public knows. Second reading of ordinance number 2024-407, amending and restating Chapter 9.08 of the Calabasas Municipal Code to prohibit certain aggressive and unsafe forms of solicitations that are a threat to public health, safety, and general welfare.
3rd is 6 months. So would like staff to change that?
No concerns with that.
Okay, good catch.
Was it written correctly on the first reading, and do we have to do this another time now?
That minor change can be fine. We can adopt now and no need to do a third reading.
Okay.
Great. See, it was worth it, Ed, that you brought it forward. Okay. Do any of my, so are there any members of the public wishing to speak on any items on the consent calendar? I don't see anyone. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Peter and James, all those in favor?
Aye.
And no one opposed. Now we will move on to new business. City Planner Tom Bartlett and Assistant Planner Rachel, I want to make sure I pronounce your name correct, last name correctly.
Zadikov.
Zadikov will present the report.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. My name is Rachel Zadikov, and I'll be presenting an update on the city's film permit program tonight. So first to start, I'm just going to provide a little bit of a background. So the program was first adopted in 1993 to establish procedures for commercial filming in the city, which is now known as Chapter 5.04 of the Calabasas Municipal Code. Beginning in 2008, a third-party vendor known as Solid Waste Solutions began processing and issuing film permits on behalf of the city. And then in October 2019, the contract ended due to a lack of adequate communication, general oversight, and enforcement of condition compliance. And then in November 2019, the Community Development Department began processing film permits. And also in 2020 and 2021, ordinance updates were adopted to close loopholes and increase enforcement tools related to film permits. So some of the updates that were made to the Calabasas Municipal Code include the authority to deny an application in which the proposed location has an issued notice of violation, or if the activities would be detrimental to the public's health, safety, or welfare. Another update that was made to the Calabasas Municipal Code is also restrictions on overnight uses of a filming location. Additional procedural improvements that were made by the Community Development Department include creating new handouts with the goal of making the process more transparent for applicants. We recently created a film permit FAQ, an application checklist, and a process flow chart to kind of create a visual of the film permit process. We conduct site visits for each film permit, and we have improved the coordination across internal and external departments, including building and safety, public works, fire department, the Lost Hills Sheriff Station. We've improved the residential notification requirements, and lastly, we've also revised the standard set of conditions and will impose specific conditions depending on the scope and complexity of the permits, with the goal of protecting public safety. Just for your reference, a few examples of the standard conditions that that are on all film permits include applicant acknowledgement of and awareness of the provisions of Chapter 5.04, allowing for city inspection at any time during filming activities, and maintaining disabled and emergency access at all times. So now I'm just going to go over some of the data that we have related to film permits. So first to start, we have the film permit data from when the Community Development Department took back over the responsibility of processing the film permits, beginning in November of 2019. And the average revenue is $15,845, with the average number of film permits issued being 14. You'll also see that for fiscal year 2019 to 2020, it's only about 8 months because that's when the city took back the responsibility. And then for fiscal year 2024 to 25, it's only about 1.5 months since we're just at the start of that fiscal year. And then on the higher range of the full fiscal years that we have the data for is fiscal year 2021 to 2022, with 26 film permits issued, 3 of them being student film permits, and an average revenue of about $42,190. And then on the lower range, we have fiscal year 2020 to 2021 with about 10 film permits issued, no student film permits, and the average revenue was $848. The reason we point out the number of student film permits is because we waive the fees upon them providing proof of that they're currently enrolled, so it doesn't contribute to the average revenue. And then looking at the available data that we have from when Solid Waste Solutions, the third-party vendor, was processing permits, they issued about 30 film permits per year. And then the only available data that we have for their revenue is for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, in which the average revenue was about $27,608, but they also charge vendor fees of about $25,100, resulting in a net revenue to the city of approximately $2,400. So you'll see that even though now when the CDD department is issuing film permits, it's about half of the amount that was issued under the third-party vendor. The average revenue is also about 57% of the total revenue when Solid Waste Solutions was issuing film permits, but you'll also see that the net revenue is approximately the net revenue now when CDD is issuing it, it's approximately 6 times more than when the third-party vendor was issuing film permits. And that is a sufficient amount of funds to cover all costs associated with processing the film permits. So what is the process to issue a film permit and what are the application requirements? So first, film permits are required for all commercial filming or still photography on private or public property, and film permits are not required for news media, personal or private use video, and productions within legally established studios. The city's normal filming hours are from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., with also extended filming hours from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. to midnight, although filming within the extended hours does require 90% of neighborhood signature consent. The number of allowed filming days are 14 days at the same location within the prior 12-month period. That's the maximum number. And then the processing time is about 2 to 5 business days, depending on the complexity of the application. For example, if the applicant was proposing to film in the public right-of-way, an encroachment permit would be required from the Public Works Department, which would require additional processing time just to make sure all of the requirements are met. And so then the application requirements that we have at minimum, all applicants are required to submit a complete and signed application, which includes like a sign, hold harmless agreement and general condition form. We require proof of property owner permission, a certificate of insurance with the city named as an additional insured, proof of current enrollment for students in order for the film permits to be waived, or the fees to be waived, a site map and parking map, residential notifications as determined by the city, and then lastly, a film permit or a fire permit is required to be issued prior to the city issuing a film permit. I'll go into a little bit more detail on the next slide as to how the fire permit issuance works. And then lastly, as for the fees, all permits are charged an application fee of $130. They're charged a permit fee of either $524 per day for filming or $196 per day for photography. We also charge staff monitor hours depending on the hours of filming, which can range between $65 to $130 per day. And then a refundable bond is also charged of $656 to ensure that the site is restored to its original condition. And then also additional fees may be charged for use of city roads, parks, and facilities. So to recap everything I kind of just went over, this is one of the documents that we recently created. It's the filming process flow chart. So if we're starting here at the top in green, when we receive an application and fees are paid, staff will review the application for completeness, and if any additional information is required, then we'll let the applicant know, and once all information is provided, we will route the application out for departmental review, and that includes the fire department. So once we route the permit out to the fire department, they will then contact the applicant to process their permit, And then the fire department themselves puts out what's called a fire list each day that gets sent to the city, and that includes all information of the issued film permits that day. So once they pay fees, we will get that information and know that they have the permit from the fire department. So then the next step is if there are any other departmental requirements or questions, we'll contact the applicant and get all of that cleared up, answer any additional questions, and once all department requirements are met, then we will issue the permit. And then once the permit is issued, staff will conduct a site visit to ensure compliance with the conditions. And if there are any issues or the site is non-compliant, for example, if a film truck was parked in an ADA parking spot, we would issue a stop filming notice until that issue is resolved. Once it's resolved, they would be able to resume filming, and then finally, once we confirm that the site has been restored to its original condition, after the completion of all filming activity, the refund can be issued as a check via USPS. And so in conclusion, since the Community Development Department has taken back over the responsibility of processing and issuing film permits in the city, we've improved coordination of internal and external review to ensure that issues are resolved prior to film permit issuance. We've streamlined and clarified application review processes, which has assisted film production coordinators with the process. The total net revenue to the city is about 6 times greater than when when film permits were being processed by the previous third-party vendor. And lastly, procedural improvements implemented by the Community Development Department have been effective in protecting and maintaining the public's health, safety, and welfare. That concludes my presentation, and I am available for questions.
Thank you so much for the
If I may just add one quick thing, Madam Mayor. Rachel does a terrific job of managing this program, and I'm pleased that she could report to you how it's going. I just wanted to point out that the sheriff is another entity we coordinate closely with, depending on the type of shoot, and Rachel does a great job of coordinating with them, the fire department, and our internal departments to get this done.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the presentation and for all your work on this. Are there any council comments? David?
I'll make it quick. First of all, thank you for the great report. And Michael and Tom, you were excellent as well in the report. But Rachel, thank you. Question on enforcement policies. How does that work? You touched on it. And also penalties for those who are not issued a permit if you aren't able to stop filming. Like, for example, and there may have been a permit, I don't know. There was a big screen and a lot of filming going on in front of the library over the past weekend. It didn't look like it may or may not have been permitted, but what are the enforcement policies and procedures, and also the penalties for those shooting without a permit if we catch them?
So typically for those filming without a permit, we will refer that to our code enforcement officer, and they'll go out and stop filming if they can in the moment. I don't know if Tom and Michael want to speak on.
I was going to say basically the same thing. Yeah. It's funny where my office is, because I call it the fishbowl. I'm looking at out the area between the library and City Hall, which seems to be a common place for people to just show up and film something. Occasionally, I just walk out and ask if they got a film permit. Probably half the time it's somebody who's just doing something as a family in advance of a wedding or graduation or something like that, and we don't require a film permit for that. So I would say most of the time we encounter these things and we find out it's that sort of thing. We do try to refer it to code enforcement if it's not that obvious.
If it's on a weekend, and this was on a weekend, so there was really no one to contact other than send a picture or send an email or note. At that point, how do you follow? Can you follow up, or do you follow up on that? There were about 20 people. There was lights. There was backdrop. It wasn't something family.
So that particular problem is a little bit more complicated because film permits tend to be transitory. They're not stationed here in the city. They're not a property owner that we can easily go after. If we're able to stop it at that moment, then we will. With regards to film permits that are issued, one of the things that Rachel pointed out is we collect a security bond, so it's about $650. So the incentive is for them to comply with and do what they're required to do. If they don't, and we have enforcement or compliance issues with the film permit that was issued, then they will not receive that refund back.
And we will spot check on those that pull permits. We tell them when they get the permit, and then every once in a while, we'll do it, and we won't even use necessarily same staff. I've done it sometimes myself.
Thank you very much.
Are there any members of the public wishing, oh wait, Ed? Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Rachel. Great report. I was really interested in reading this and learning about it. There's so much to it. When there is a filming going on, there's chaos around the streets for a number of reasons. One, there's a lot of parking issues. I know you've got parking, siteway management, which is very, very good, but you get spectators, particularly when it's a narrow street and school, people dropping off for school and coming back from school. The traffic flow is very big. It can be out of hand a little bit. So my question was, when you permit this, do the film companies take into consideration school hours?
We do take that into consideration when we're reviewing the applications, kind of depending on the scope and the complexity of the permit. But if there's any filming near a school, we make the applicants very aware, and then we'll, look at it as a team and route it out to staff and ensure that we're protecting the safety of the kids. And we don't allow any filming within the surrounding areas near schools when children are present.
Thank you.
It's also reviewed by our Public Works Department as well, so that we get their input on the traffic management component. And parking is definitely an issue. I've seen in the past, staff has required for a larger shoot that's in a residential neighborhood, they'll require them to secure off-site parking, like lease over at the Commons or at the Summit Shopping Center, something, so that people can park off-site and then they shuttle the staff members into the film.
Are there any other council comments, questions? Great, thank you so much. I don't see any members of the public wishing to speak on this item. Let's see, it's just a receive and file, so no action taken on our part. Okay, thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to public hearing. Adopt and approve the urgency ordinance number 2024-408U, amending the urgency ordinance number 2022-399U, the Woolsey Fire Overlay Zone ordinance, by adding a provision requiring new replacement structures on properties located within the overlay zone to be compatible in architectural design with structures on other properties in the vicinity through the application of objective neighborhood design standards. And this item will require a 4/5 council vote. Tom Bartlett will present the report.
I don't have a presentation, Madam Mayor and members of council. Everything is, I think, specified in the written report.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward. This is a matter that came up because after some more recent property rebuilds took place, which also included ADUs that were by law required to approve, we had larger scale results compared to the homes that were there before, as you could imagine, because an ADU is at least 800 square feet. So design in terms of making these fit into the neighborhood became a bit more of a challenge, and we were asked to make sure that that's something to look for any projects going forward. That's what the report's basically telling you, is that we have an ordinance amendment that will make sure that that's part of the process for any new project in the zone.
Perfect report. I'd like to now open the public hearing. Are there any council questions?
I have a couple questions. Tom, this applies primarily to only one undeveloped or unredeveloped property, correct?
We have only one that would come under this the way it is now, because everybody else is either complete or they're far enough along to have already been reviewed through planning.
Right, and their application was in, so it probably wouldn't have even applied to them.
Correct.
Once their application's in. So the question is, in addition to the one that's not done yet, let's just say one of these that's either completed, has permits, approved, whatever, wants to change something significantly, like they want to do an addition or they want to knock out something. I don't know what it could be. Or let's say, God forbid, there's another problem, like there's a landslide or whatever there might be there. What would they then fall under the new ordinance?
No, I mean, they get basically one bite at the apple to rebuild what was there, consistent with the ordinance. If they've already done that, they've already taken advantage of that ordinance. And now the property owner that you're talking about hypothetically would want to do, say, another addition. Or now they're going to add a J80 or whatever
Right.
it is. They're just treated the same as any other applicant on any other property for the zone they're in. Not,
Right.
the overlay
so in
doesn't
other words,
apply.
the overlay wouldn't apply, and they would be just like everybody else. They'd have to go through the process.
Correct, because it's not a rebuild anymore. It's a regular home expansion project.
So that's 14 homes would be under that.
Everybody but the one that's not yet rebuilt would be treated like any other neighbors that aren't in the
Okay.
overlay.
I did have some comments. Do you want comments now? Or
Yeah,
you-
let's do it.
I mean, my other comment is, I mean, I know that we were all well-intentioned, and we wanted to get, and we had a number of those homeowners here. We wanted to get people back into their homes as soon as possible. We wanted to make it easy for them. And I think it was the right thing to do. I think in our haste of trying to do the right thing, we neglected to look at some of the consequences. And I think some people took advantage, and maybe they sold their properties, and just speculators came in and built out to the maximum, who had no intention of being part of the community necessarily. So I think it's a lesson well learned, and I hope we never have something like this again in our community. But if we do, it's something that we should keep in mind for the future, to have something, similar where we have to be consistent with the property. I know probably in an HOA, this is outside of an organized HOA. If this were a formal HOA, they would have to have complied with whatever, unless the HOA waived it. But we have a lot of areas especially on the west side, that are not, and it would be nice to not have this problem again. That's the end of my comments.
Thank you. Any other council comments?
Yeah.
Peter?
I would just ask, if this is going to apply to one home and the two homes on either side of it have already taken advantage of the overlay zone, is the one home left going to be judged according to the two homes beside it, left and right, or the whole neighborhood in these objective standards?
It'd be the whole neighborhood. It wouldn't be just the rebuilds on either side or nearest. The intent is to have it blend in with the neighborhood, so we would look at the character of the neighborhood with a particular focus on what was there. So things are handled case by case, of course.
Sure.
We'd have to see a design to react to a design,
Yep.
and then start taking everything into account. But
I just question about, I'm in favor of this. Again, rewind, back to when we put it in. If it was something that we had considered back then, it would have been kept the whole area in character with the neighborhood. But I'm just trying to picture in my mind what these larger homes are going to be with the one home in the middle that we held to a tighter standard to match the rest of the neighborhood. Is that going to make a dent?
I'm not quite sure I understand if you're saying if it's going to make a dent. I mean, we'll apply design finesse, if you will, or review appropriately. We have the ability to use ARP if we want to, and we will if we need to. It may actually trigger it automatically, and we'll make sure it's done well and with everybody in mind, not just the immediate neighbors.
I'm just trying to understand the importance of doing it for this one property that's left.
Well, and just to clarify, this amendment is only going to be for the design and aesthetics. The actual parameters of the overlay ordinance will remain the same. So it allowed for a certain square footage over what existed, and that will stay the same. So if the two homes were previously around the same size, then the one home left would be able to rebuild at roughly the same size as their neighbors are.
Okay, so the scale would remain as is. It's the character of the
The
neighborhood.
character
that we're
and the
enforcing.
design of the house is what this is changing.
Makes more sense. Thank you.
Are there any other council questions?
I did have one other one come to mind. On the last item, in the multifamily residence, did that change remarkably? I mean, did they just rebuild the multifamily units and that's it? Or did they do something different on the location? That's the last entry on this chart.
Oh, on on the list of properties?
Yes.
My recollection, council, is that they rebuilt roughly what was there before. They
And the
didn't
same
come
with-
in and significantly modify it.
The same with the commercial? I mean,
Right,
it
the
looks
commercial was
same.
the same. They just built back what was there before.
Okay, that was, okay, thanks.
If there is no additional discussion, I would like to request a motion to adopt urgency ordinance number 2024-408U, amending urgency ordinance number 2022-399U, the Woolsey Fire Overlay Zoning Ordinance, by adding a provision requiring new replacement structures on properties located within the overlay zone to be compatible in architectural design with structures on other properties in the vicinity through the application of objective neighborhood design standards. Is there a motion and a second?
So moved. And I'll second.
Peter and Ed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No opposition. Thank you so much,
thank you.
Tom and Michael. Now we're going to move on to future information agenda items. Are there any requests for future agenda items?
I have one, I would like to put on a discussion of potentially taking a position on one of the propositions and remind the council that there are a number of propositions and measures on the ballot, and I guess the next agenda would be the only one that realistically would make a difference if we took a position. And the one I would like to look at is Proposition 36, the public safety measure.
I'll second that.
And then just to remind everyone again that if you, now, it's now or never for the other ones if anybody else has one they would like to take up.
Okay. We'll add Proposition 36.
Okay.
Task force reports. Are there any task force reports?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go Ed. I'll go this way.
We're going alphabetical now.
Sure.
Well, I was glad to attend Contract Cities, the Fall Educational Summit, a couple weeks ago in Oceanside, where our illustrious councilman, James Bazagian, spoke about all the measures that were going on for about 45 minutes, had everybody's attention, so did a great job. Glad I went down there to see that. And also was very surprised that two supervisors were there, Supervisor Horvath and Hahn, and also Sheriff Luna. I just saw them kind of banged into each other, and it was quite a surprise. So all in all, it was a very good educational summit, which they talked about Measuration 36, and it was very, very helpful and insightful. The Clean Power Alliance, that little train I'm always mentioning, I think I'm going to give it a new moniker called a Lightning Speed Company. They are ranked now #1 in clean power in the United States of America. Second year in a row. And they've just issued their third energy revenue bond for $1.5 billion. So we are on our way. I'd like to mention something about them, because, you know, I talk about them maybe a little bit too much, but one of the reasons we didn't quite have as many shutoffs this summer, as hot as it was, it could have been worse, is because a lot of the money that they're making out of the bonds on the repricing is going back to commercial and residential battery backup. So about 10% of the energy now is being provided by the backup. So it's taking a lot of pressure off the grid. So I'm happy to have learned about that. And lastly, we had a wonderful, with Councilman Shapiro, their suitability meeting committee. We're talking about EV, really talking about the Environmental Commission a lot, because they have, and deservedly so, have done so much in the way of helping the city on the environment. They have and I'll mention it, bags to benches. So you'll see in the planning area, if you walk in there, there's a box. So if any of you have residents have plastic bags that you get with your fruit at the supermarket, I know we didn't know what to do with all of ours, so we had a ton of them. I had boxes of them, and I brought them down to City Hall. So eventually they're going to create a bench out of that. So maybe some momentum for ecology and the spirit of clean energy. Momentum will pick up, hopefully. So it's a great commission. So that's my report.
David?
Thank you. And that Sustainability Task Force meeting was great. And also they talked about staff talked about some very exciting new projects they're going to bring forward to council in the not too distant future, so that's exciting. I also attended a number of SCAG meetings, legislative meeting where we went over not just propositions, but some ongoing legislation, some of which the governor vetoed and some of which he signed. And my leadership and CHD and regional council meetings for SCAG. Mayor Weintraub and I attended the Recreation, Youth, and Senior Services meeting with our illustrious director, Erica Green, and staff, and very, very exciting, all the new projects, parks that are going to be opening, and so on. And there was a Mayor's Youth Council meeting. Again, Mayor Weintraub led the meeting. The youth led it, but she was there, and I was there. They were talking about the Flea Mart Part 2, which is very exciting, I know, for some people. So that's upcoming, as well as the voter registration. And since we haven't met for a while, Mayor Pro Tem Kraut and I had a budget subcommittee meeting a while back in September, which is since our last meeting, and we got a good start going forward on that. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Peter?
Well, thank you, Councilmember Shapiro. I'm not sure I can remember that far back, but it has been a while. More recently, in the last couple of weeks, I did attend a VICA Leaders Forum on the 13th, which hosted a number of the Metro department heads talking about transportation in our area, and was starting to ask more questions about Caltrans and our 101 freeway and methods of getting attention for that, as well as bus routes and extending them here through Calabasas. And us being here at the end of the valley, we're making sure that we're not forgotten. I also had a chance to talk to the leader of VICA about his experience with the Olympics in Paris, and he shared some ideas of how to get communities involved. One of the things he shared with us that was so important was it wasn't about getting the tourists to show up, it was about activating your residents to get involved, and that's where the community involvement came from. So I've shared some of those ideas with our city manager, because we'll be having the Olympics here ourselves in about 4 years. Last thing I want to report is that the mayor and I did meet with Southern California Edison on their reliability report. It was good to get some statistics from them, but we were not pleased with the lack of specifics, in particular for the circuits in Calabasas that do experience frequent outages. We're digging down to causes and conditions, and we asked Southern California Edison to do some more research and get back to us. We'll keep you posted.
James?
Yeah, I had forgotten this at the beginning, but I was going to ask our city clerk. I know before our next meeting, the election season is formally starting, voting and ballots, and maybe you could give us a rundown, Lisa, and
Sure.
how people can get further information if they wish.
Sure. I'm told the sample ballot will be posted on lavote.gov starting tomorrow, so you can look there to find out what's on your ballot. The last day for the county to mail ballots is October 7th, so check your mail for those. And then at Founders Hall from October 26th to November 4th, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., you can come and vote in person. There's also a drop box out front of City Hall down the stairs. You can drop your ballot there as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, James?
No.
Okay, I will add, Ed and I had an economic development subcommittee meeting yesterday, which is always a great meeting, so lots of things coming forth. We had a COG meeting, and one thing that we're also really trying to do at the COG is engage with Metro and Caltrans and CHP, just really a lot of other agencies in the area that need to be a part of the discussion. Peter mentioned the SCE meeting, and just to stress, we are really pushing them to provide answers on why things keep happening. And so when residents continue to experience outages, please share your concerns with us so we can continue to be your advocates with SCE. Next week, I'm attending a mayor's roundtable with the Valley Economic Alliance, so that should be good, and I will report back to everyone. Peter, myself, and David attended the interfaith meeting at the Lost Hills Sheriff Station, and all the work that they are doing to keep our religious institutions safe. So that was a really great meeting. And I know a bunch of us are attending the event at the Sheriff's Station on Friday for the Real Crime Center. So we will report back on that, but that's a really exciting project for the community. And that's all I have to report.
And I'm sorry, one correction. I had RSVP'd for the interfaith
Oh,
meeting.
you weren't there, sorry.
I wasn't there. I was called out of town on
Oh
business
yeah, I
that day.
forgot you weren't there.
Yeah, but thank you for that.
Yeah, your name. Sorry, I forgot about that. Now I'll turn to Kindon for a city manager's report.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few items. I want to congratulate our Public Works team. Just recently, they were notified of a $1.3 million grant that they received. It's the Safe Streets for All program. Trey and Tatiana did a lot of work on that, so we compliment them on that. Speaking of grants, our Community Development Department is working on an application now, and this will be on our next agenda on October 9th. This is a grant with the Housing and Urban Development funds, and we're looking at using these funds for the general plan update, objective design standards, some other needed plans that we were looking at doing in the near future. And then Mayor and Councilman Albrecht, I think you're already aware of this, but through the Economic Development Committee, but we've recently signed a contract with a new software platform, I guess is better called Placer AI, a wonderful tool that we can now use to create geofences around certain areas in the city. So for example, we can put a geofence around the community center or certain economic zones, and we can track from data how many people are coming to those sites at different times. And so then use that for however we want to do that. It could go around the library, it could be, again, city facilities, it could be the community at large. So it's a great tool to help us know where visitors are coming from and then how to tailor services and amenities to our residents and also those who are visiting our community. And then finally today I was able to participate, just briefly, I was able to attend for about an hour a fire season seminar. This was put on by Drew Smith, Chief Smith took the lead on this, but it's an annual workshop that they do with law enforcement and firefighting agencies from LA County, LA City, Ventura County. I saw cars and representatives from Simi Valley Police, and they look at the weather, they look at the fuel, all of the information that we receive from Chief Smith when he does our reports, and they take that and they look at what kind of fire season that they are going to have and then how they can coordinate. And it was wonderful just to be there for a short time and just see what a good working relationship is between all of these entities. And they fully recognize that where that fire starts does not necessarily mean where it ends up. It can cross jurisdictions very quickly. And so it might start in one area and there might be an incident command that's set up and that there's a lead agency, but that is very fluid because of the nature of these emergencies and what might happen. And so it was good to see that coordination. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much. With that, we will adjourn back into closed session.